Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's Zen and Zazen class. Um, 2 weeks ago, I finished with the Hokyo Zammai text, the precious mirror Samadhi, and I've been asking people if they had ideas for the next text I could talk about, and I think a couple of people had some ideas. To be totally honest, I forgot what ideas you had, which means that none of them really clicked with me. And about a year ago, I was also on my German YouTube channel. I was talking about the same text, and also after I finished that, I was asking my German viewers if they had ideas. And again, some people were asking for Dogen's Shobogenzo, some chapters or some other texts. But then somebody said, why don't you talk about Shunryu Suzuki's Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind? It's a pretty modern text, but you could say it's already a classic. And the problem is I don't have the book with me here. So I could order it from Germany and then talk about it. But as it's available on the internet, um, my idea is I will talk about it bi-weekly on this channel starting next week. Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. For those of you who don't want to search for it by themselves on the internet, I can put a link to one site where you can find it into the chat function. So this week, I'm going to talk again about Sawaki Roshi's To You. And next week, I'm going to talk about Suzuki Roshi's Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. Probably I'm going to do one chapter at a time. So I won't read it word for word, but we'll try to talk about one chapter at a time. So it will probably take us more than a year or so. But I've been talking about this book for longer than that. We don't have to hurry. But today, as always, before we start with the talking and discussing, let's sit together for half an hour. Okay, thank you for joining. I don't know if you realized Zoom has this filter that filters out the voice and suppresses the other noises. And usually I switch it off so you can hear the bell better before and after Zazen, but sometimes I forget about the filter. This time I remembered after I struck it for the first time. So maybe you heard only 2 times, or if you heard the first time, maybe the sound sounded different. The problem is if the filter is off, you might hear more of the noise from the street or from the planes. I don't know, was it a problem? Did you hear a lot of noise? Otherwise, next time I could switch the filter off when I strike the bell, and then afterwards during Zazen I switch the filter on again. Right now the filter is off, so I don't know if you can hear any extra noises. I will put it on again. Anyway, let's return to this book, Sawaki Roshi's To You. In the printed version, we are on page 59, I think. I think the last quote I didn't read yet. It's your Zazen alone penetrates heaven and earth. It certifies this place of great liberation. This place of great liberation, of course, is nirvana. And nirvana is not something that we might experience in the afterlife, but nirvana is basically this place here and now. Once you stop playing the game, trying to collect points, trying to be better than the others, or maybe being better than yourself. And then when you realize that 3 years ago you were much better at Zazen than you are now, you feel like a loser. Once you stop playing that game and you just live now, that's the place of great liberation. Sawaki Roshi says, yours are Zen alone. And that connects, I think, to this only a Buddha together with a Buddha that I talked about last week. You can interpret this quote from the Lotus Sutra in a lot of ways. For example, you can't communicate it among ordinary beings, but Buddhas among themselves can communicate it. But basically my reading was only a Buddha together with a Buddha means only you alone with yourself. And this connects here. Yours are then alone. So it's not a team effort that we're doing here. Of course, the help of the Sangha is a great help. And I could imagine that even this Zoom class on Mondays, for some of you, it's a help, it's a reminder. Oh, it's Monday, let's sit with the rest. But actually nobody can replace your Zazen alone. Your Zazen alone manifests the great or the place of great liberation. How does he say it? Your Zazen alone penetrates heaven and earth. And another famous phrase that connects here is in heaven and earth, I and I alone. How would you translate it here? In this book, in the beginning, Sawaki Roshi talks about the sentence. In the beginning, it's translated as the identity that is unsurpassable in heaven and earth. And that's a quote from the Buddha, or probably it's only a legend, but according to legend, right after he was born, the infant Buddha took 7 steps and pointed with the right hand to the heavens and with the left hand down to earth and said exactly this. I and I alone am the only person that's worth of respect. And according to Sawaki Roshi, that was, how do you say, also the subject of criticism from, for example, the Confucianists. Buddha must have been pretty full of himself if he claims that he and only he himself is worth of respect. But what Sawaki Roshi says there's basically, that's true for each single one of us. Each single one of us is living out, manifesting this one identity that surpasses everything below the heavens and on this earth. So again, it's not your Zazen together with the Zazen of the others, or it's not you with the help of the Buddha, but it's your Zazen alone. Your Zazen alone that penetrates heaven and earth. Let's move forward to the next one. Zazen is the Dharma switch that turns on the whole universe. Probably you all have made this experience that the world looks different before Zazen and after Zazen. Maybe even only 30 minutes, but especially if you sit for a long time, if you do a session for a couple of days. Although nothing has changed, it's still the same people, the same houses, the same town, the same stars, the same trees. Everything is completely different. It's like somebody turned on a switch. In German, there's this expression abschalten, which means to switch off. Maybe one English translation would be to chill or to cool down, to calm down. And a lot of people say they meditate in order to abschalten, to switch off. But I think what Sawaki Roshi here says, switching on, is a much more accurate expression of what's happening. It's not that you're switching off, you're switching on. The universe is switching on. Let's do another one. Samadhi means practicing that which fills the entire universe. Throwing yourself into it completely in every single instant, in every single activity. So put into plain words, it means to just do what you're doing. It doesn't mean to do something extra mindfully. It doesn't mean to do it in a special Zen way. It means to just do what you do. Connected with the whole universe. But also you don't have to be especially mindful that in this moment I'm connected with the whole universe. When I'm washing the dishes, the whole universe is washing the dishes. Just wash the dishes. Just wash the dishes. And if you're not separate from the activity of washing the dishes, you're also not separate from the rest of the universe. The whole universe is washing the dishes, but you don't have to tell yourself in that moment, when I'm washing the dishes, the whole universe is doing the dishes. Forget about that. Forget about Samadhi. Just do what you do. When you sit, sit. When you eat, eat. When you sleep, sleep. That's Sawaki Roshi's definition of Samadhi. And one more. Simply doing means doing it now, on the spot. It means not wasting the little time you have in life. Yeah, there's the story, famous story that probably I quoted already. Dogen Zenji visiting China when he was 24, 25, and he saw this old monk drying mushrooms on the stone path in front of the main hall, and he's asking the monk, there should be younger monks in the kitchen, why do you do it? And the monk says, somebody else is not me. And Dogen says, why do you have to do it right now at noontime when it's the hottest? Why don't you do it when it's a little bit cooler? And the monk says, well, when should I do it? If not now. There's no other time for me to do it than now. That's kind of Samadhi, or simply doing. Here, Sawaki Roshi uses the phrase simply doing. Simply doing means to do it now on the spot. There's no, how do you say, gap. There's no gap between you and the action. When you say, oh, I will do it in 5 minutes. There's this gap. There's the gap. And there's always the possibility of you saying in 5 minutes, give me another 5 minutes, give me another 5 minutes. Or give me another year. Next year I'll do it. Next life I will do it. Next life I will be reborn in a better body with more enthusiasm, with more motivation. Next life I will be a monk and I will move to Antaji and I will attain enlightenment next life, or maybe the life after next life, whenever. And chances are that you're never going to do it. Okay, so much from my side. If you have any questions or anything you would like to share, you are very, very welcome to do so. Any questions? Anything you would like to share? Nothing?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know how to raise the hand here. Is there a symbol or something?
Okay, I can hear you. That's okay. Christian.
Yes, to me, not not having that gap or being completely involved in what one is doing, it sounds like another way of saying not to be distracted by one's own thinking,
Mm-hmm.
than like, one's own mental imagery. Um, but then mental imagery is also part of
Mm.
being a person, right?
Yes.
And so I just wondered whether it's also possible to be completely distracted, as in completely in one's mental imagery. So is the point really
Mm.
just knowing what one is doing, not to be confused about what one is actually doing,
Mm.
doing something physically or doing something mentally?
I wouldn't call it knowing what you're doing, because when you think that you know what you do, there's already a gap. Without the gap, you couldn't know what you do. You do something, and also there's a part of you that knows what you're doing. And I think that's exactly not what Sawaki Roshi is saying here, but more it's you're completely washing the dishes. Maybe, or probably in that moment, you have completely forgotten that you're washing the dishes. You're just doing it. And you asked, is it also possible to be completely distracted? I don't know about distraction, because for me, distraction implies that you're doing a lot of things. Your mind is all over the place, but you're doing none of them completely. But often, for example, people say Zazen means not to think. And with this, I would disagree. For example, if there's a task that requires your thinking, one expression, one form of samadhi would be to 100% think, to be completely in the thinking. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you stop thinking. If you have to think, you completely 100% are thinking. You could even say that like things like anxiety, there could be a samadhi of some anxiety, although I never heard about it. But if you're anxious, allow yourself to be completely anxious. Although I could imagine that often when we're anxious, we need this gap to be anxious, because I'm anxious because of something, I'm afraid of something. And when you allow yourself to be completely in this state, the question is, what was I afraid of? What is this anxiety about? Um, so I could imagine if you practice samadhi with anxiousness, for example, that actually the anxiousness over time at least will disappear. Anyway, so in my view, just doing something doesn't mean to know what you're doing, and also doesn't mean to, how do you say, stop thinking. But it means to do what you do 100%. And if this requires thinking, then also you are thinking 100% in this task that you're doing. Does this answer your question, or do you want to follow up?
Still reflecting on it.
Okay.
So yeah, I wondered, if if doing something 100% like washing the dishes,
Yes.
if that precludes any thinking while doing the dishes, if the thinking is not related to doing the dishes. So can I basically do the dishes and think about a recent holiday, but 100%, both of it? Probably not.
It's kind of difficult. Probably you're doing, maybe you're doing the 50-50, or you're doing 80% dishes and 20% of your mind the other way around. Your mind, 80% is occupied by paying attention to the dishes. So in most cases,
Yeah.
probably easiest to actually mind to be in the action and not have always, most of the time, no sitting. But the samadhi that Sawaki Roshi here talks about, I think, means like really be there, bring your mind and your body and the action that you're performing, bring them together. Don't let them be all over the place.
Because I also have the perception that when doing something completely, not so much me involved, and that when
Mhm.
I'm distracted, there's more me involved.
Yes, yes. Yeah. That's why I said when you're really one with washing the dishes, that's when you're one with the universe. On the other hand, if you always have to tell yourself, I'm connected with the universe, there's already the me there. I am connected with the universe. Forget about the universe, just wash the dishes, and in that moment the me disappears because you're connected with the dishes, and that's the moment when the universe is washing the dishes, although you might not be even aware of. So you don't have to know, oh, now is the moment where the universe is doing the dishes. Because when the me disappears, also this idea, I'm one with the universe, disappears. But the fact that this idea disappears means the universe is doing the dishes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else that you would like to ask or share? If not, it's a little bit early today, but originally the class was only planned from 8 to 8:50, so sometimes we can finish a little bit earlier. Next week, I will start to talk about Zen mind, beginner's mind. There are two prefaces. I will start with the two prefaces, and then bi-weekly I will do one chapter at a time. And again, you can find the link in the chat function, or later when I upload this to YouTube, you will find a link in the video description. So thank you very much for joining. Thank you, Schwanzan, for hosting us. Hoping to see you again next week. Have a good time.